about the Holocaust. Coming up on the CBS Evening News tonight, how the California wildfires exposed a national insurance crisis. Thank you for joining me here at 6. I'll see you at 11.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
It was an earthquake today in the world of artificial intelligence. Good evening. I'm John Dickerson.
I'm Maurice DuBois. And the aftershocks were felt from Washington to Wall Street and Silicon Valley. Signs that China may be catching up to the United States in the AI race sent tech stocks plunging.
A Chinese startup called DeepSeek has created an AI model at a much lower cost than the U.S. competition. Its AI assistant was today Apple's most downloaded app, surpassing the AI app ChatGPT and Threads, a social media app.
California-based NVIDIA, which makes the chips that power AI, lost nearly $600 billion in market value, the biggest one-day loss by a company ever. AI will be a growing part of our lives in medicine, transportation, education, and beyond.
It's being called a Sputnik moment for America's AI industry. That's a reference to the panic in the U.S. when the Soviets leaped ahead in the space race in the 1950s. So Margaret Brennan joins us from Washington. Margaret, Sputnik moment, or is that a little overhyped?
Well, it could be a Sputnik moment or a shot across the bow. All of it matters, John and Maurice, because the U.S. and China are in an arms race when it comes to AI. Former President Biden said it's the most consequential technology of all time, possibly, and it poses profound risks. So this technological leap made by China's DeepSeek using inferior computer chips at a cost 20 to 30 times less than leading American firms really got the attention of CEOs and investors that I've spoken with today, who think this could drive more urgency among companies to innovate. If the technology is lower cost, more people may use it. And President Trump's AI czar said today, we can't be complacent. We know the last administration tried to keep America's edge in this space by banning high-tech chips from being sold to China. So news that a Chinese firm claims they did all of this with basic computer chips does raise national security concerns.
And what are those national security implications, Margaret? How do we expect the Trump White House to respond here?
We don't know yet, Maurice. I have spoken to U.S. policymakers who are always skeptical about believing what any Chinese firm claims because of the tight Communist Party control of industry. So they're not completely convinced DeepSeek is being honest when they claim they achieved a breakthrough on their own. But in terms of risk, a CEO I spoke with today joked DeepSeek makes TikTok look like Sesame Street, meaning the U.S. is trying to ban that social media app TikTok because of evidence that its owner can and will siphon up information about Americans and use it to control and shape information that they consume. So DeepSeek could do the same in the AI space. And at this hour, millions of Americans have downloaded it. So keep in mind here, Chinese law requires companies to assist in intelligence gathering if it is requested by their government.
Okay, Margaret Brennan tonight in Washington, thank you.
And there is another Chinese threat to U.S. security, and it also involves high technology.
Jim Axelrod shows you how Chinese spies are targeting U.S. service members on social media to get American military secrets.
It was here on this sprawling seaside Navy base in Southern California where Thomas Zhao, then a 26-year-old naval electrician, admitted to passing sensitive documents to an undercover Chinese intelligence officer. We obtained this recording of his confession.
So why were you taking money from him?
Free money. He's just taking a couple pictures.
He absolutely betrayed his country.
Sitting across from Zhao on that day in August 2023, NCIS Special Agent Ryan Norris.
I think he, over the past 2 years, had a relationship that he knew was nefarious, and I think he was realizing he was finally caught.
The gig was up.
Exactly.
That nefarious relationship began in a networking group on the Chinese-owned social media app WeChat. The Chinese intelligence officer posed as an investor.
The intelligence officer presented himself as a researcher that was looking at the global markets.
By then, Norris told us, COVID had made it more difficult for spies to travel abroad. So China's intelligence officers started leaning on virtual espionage, gleaning military secrets through online contacts. In the last 2 years, federal law enforcement agents have told us they've identified about a dozen such cases. They've secured convictions against 3 service members recruited by suspected undercover agents of China.
They will turn over every stone to try and collect what they can.
Kevin Vorndran heads the FBI's counterintelligence division. U.S. officials told us China is trolling professional networking sites, including LinkedIn, to find American service members and others who hold U.S. government security clearances.
Members of the military, former members of the military, list their resumes. It exposes their expertise. And through that, it makes targeting by an intelligence service and a sophisticated intelligence service simple to accomplish.
In Zhao's case, what started as chats about stock trades began to veer into sensitive areas. Questions about naval exercises in the Pacific, where China seeks to challenge U.S. military strength.
In the end, he received approximately $15,000.
Court records revealed the agent asked Zhao to take photographs and videos of restricted areas and told him to destroy evidence of their communications.
How does that not raise every red flag available to Thomas Zhao?
It should have. And Zhao stated that he questioned the intelligence officer occasionally.
When I tried to cut the relationship with them, it's already kind of late.
You feel like you were trapped?
Yeah.
Zhao, a U.S. citizen since he was 12, was arrested, pleaded guilty, and is currently serving more than 2 years for bribery and conspiracy. But his actions did not rise to the level of espionage.
I was like, this is impossible.
His wife told us while her husband made a mistake, he was just as shocked as anyone that he was dealing with a Chinese intelligence officer.
Was Thomas Zhao scammed, or did he willfully and knowingly betray his country?
He will never do that. He will never betray this country. That's not him.
A spokesperson for China's U.S. Embassy denied knowledge of the Zhao case, telling CBS News it, quote, hopes the United States will stop hyping up the so-called Chinese espionage risk, end quote. But the NCIS agent we just heard from, Ryan Norris, told us he expects the Chinese are paying close attention, and he thinks they'll be watching this story tonight to see if they can learn anything about what led investigators to Thomas Zhao.
And former FBI Director Wray said this threat from the Chinese, the technological threat, is the biggest possible threat. So let me ask you, though, about Zhao, Jim. Low-level guy. So what does this say about the Chinese, the net they're casting?
Well, that should give us a sense of just how wide that net is, right? I mean, Thomas Zhao is low-level. Forget the cloak and dagger stuff you think of when you think of espionage, the back alley drops of top secret files. This is thousands of Chinese agents sitting, they don't even have to travel here, sitting at computer terminals in Beijing, sending out thousands of probes they only have to hit once. Now get this, the FBI told us that the volume of espionage activity the Chinese are directing at the United States right now surpasses the volume sent to the United States from all other countries combined.
Jim, it's rare for the FBI to talk about this kind of thing publicly, right? So why do we think they're going public with it?
Well, in this new kind of espionage, this virtual espionage, one of the only tools available is awareness. In other words, every current service member or retired service member, anyone with access to information the Chinese might want is a target. So the FBI wants to make them all aware this is going on. It was unusual. It struck us that it was unusual. That tells us about the nature of the threat and just how seriously they're taking it.
That it is.
Jim Axelrod. Thank you, Jim.
Now, some of the top stories from around the world in tonight's evening news roundup. The first significant rain to hit Southern California in 8 months touched off mudslides in areas scarred by wildfires. Lonnie Quinn will have an update later in the broadcast.
ICE agents Sunday detained nearly 1,000 migrants for deportation. That's 3 times the daily average during the last year of the Biden administration.
In Poland, the ceremony today at Auschwitz, site of the Nazi death camp, marked 80 years since it was liberated. 56 people who were freed that day were in attendance.
And President Donald Trump is meeting tonight with House Republicans in Miami. Robert Costa reports it's an effort to head off internal fights in the party over tax cuts, spending, and the debt limit.
Still ahead here on tonight's CBS Evening News.
I'm Mark Strassman. Here in the Los Angeles fire wreckage, another disaster is now smoldering. People who are uninsured or underinsured and face staggering losses.
I'm Elizabeth Palmer in East Jerusalem. As a flood of Gazans return to their destroyed communities, the terrorist group that started the war with Israel is planning a comeback. That's next on the CBS Evening News.
If you have heart failure or chronic kidney disease, Farxiga can help you keep living life, because there are places you'd like to be. Serious side effects include increased ketones in blood or urine and bacterial infection between the anus and genitals, both which may be fatal. Severe allergic reactions, dehydration, urinary tract or genital yeast infections, and low blood sugar. Stop taking and tell your doctor right away if you have nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, tiredness, rash, swelling, trouble breathing or swallowing. Tell your doctor about lightheadedness, weakness, fever, pain, tenderness, redness or swelling between the anus and genitals. Ask your doctor about Farxiga today.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check the weather first before sailing.
It's gonna get nasty later.
Yep.
Hey, perfect day for sailing, huh? Have fun on land.
I'll go tell the Coast Guard.
Yep.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Can Nariva support your brain health?
Mary, Janet, hey.
Eddie, Nell, Fraser, Frank. Frank?
Fred, how are you? Fred.
Support up to 7 brain health indicators, including memory. When you need to remember Nariva.
Tide Pods Ultra Oxy one-ups the cleaning power of liquid.
Can it one-up whatever they're doing?
For sure.
Seriously?
One-up the power of liquid, one-up the toughest stains. Any further questions? One-up the power of liquid with Tide Pods Ultra Oxy.
The ceasefire with Israel requires Hamas to release 33 hostages in the first phase of swaps. But today, Israel said it's learned 8 are dead.
And look at this, a sea of humanity as tens of thousands of Palestinians return to their homes, or what's left of them, in northern Gaza. That, too, is part of the ceasefire deal.
Israel's goal is to destroy Hamas, but 15 months of attacks on Hamas targets may be having the opposite effect. Elizabeth Palmer is in East Jerusalem.
Israel's assault on Gaza killed thousands of Hamas fighters, but it also created a whole generation of new ones.
I have nothing left. Today, I'm prepared to join Hamas, and not just be one of them, but be one of the best.
He asked that we call him Rami. He's 22 and told us an Israeli airstrike killed both his parents and 2 siblings, and that he has never held a gun in his life.
I worked at a restaurant. My ambition was to be a talented chef, to earn a good salary. But then the war came, and it wiped out everything.
Hamas terrorists started the war on October 7th, 2023, when they attacked Israel and murdered more than 1,000 people. But 15 months of relentless Israeli bombing hasn't wiped them out. Their handover last Saturday of 4 Israeli hostages was a spectacle to project power and draw new recruits.
Joining Hamas is revenge for what I went through, for no reason and for no crime I committed.
Israel Ziv is a retired general with the Israeli Defense Forces.
They can recruit thousands of people. It's not even a question. And definitely there is enough hatred there for young people to join the Hamas.
Did the IDF know going in that they were going to create a new generation of Hamas fighters who were motivated by real rage?
It's inevitable. Immediately you create the next generation with the hatred.
Hatred rooted in despair. The prospects in Gaza couldn't be bleaker. Virtually no jobs, no homes, and no future.
So it's key that Israel offers Gazans an alternative.
Absolutely. If Israel will not push for an alternative, I think it's only a matter of time until the Hamas, which is already there, it never left, will rebuild itself, and the next October 7th is only a question of time.
Liz Palmer joins us now from East Jerusalem. And Liz, does that young man see any other path forward than violence?
He did speak longingly of a future for himself without violence, but he said you need stability and time to plan one. And he's just going to have his hands full finding food and shelter and water to keep his little brother and sister alive. So for young men like him, Hamas is the default. It's organized, it offers structure and salaries.
And Liz, that general said there needed to be some alternative to violence. So what would that look like?
Well, first, it would need the ceasefire to hold. Secondly, it needs billions and billions of dollars of reconstruction money from international donors. And thirdly, it needs a peace plan leading to a Palestinian state, and one that doesn't include Hamas. At this stage, all of those are long shots.
Liz Palmer in East Jerusalem tonight. Thank you so much.
The rain in Southern California is ending.
And Lonnie Quinn says it is turning to snow in Arizona. Lonnie.
You betcha, Maurice. Take a look at the video behind me. This is Cottonwood, Arizona, a portion of Arizona that typically doesn't see much snow at all. Maybe 6/10 for the entire winter. They picked up 3 inches this morning. And when you look at the entire country, the story here is interesting because right now, in terms of snowpack, we still have some snow on the ground in the panhandle of Florida. It's kind of unheard of, but what's really rare is last week as that system rolled in, the entire country had snowpack at least at some point, at somewhere in every single state, all 50 with some kind of snowpack. And as far as snow that's on the way, there's a system that's going to push through the Great Lakes into the Northeast tomorrow morning. Could make your drive to work kind of difficult with some snow squalls and limited visibility. Gentlemen?
Wait, hold up, Lonnie. All 50? You mean Hawaii, too?
Okay, look, I can prove it with a picture right here. This is a live camera in Mauna Loa, and down in the bottom corner of your screen, that is some snow on the ground. High elevations in Hawaii often pick up some snow, but yep, all 50 states with some kind of snowpack on the ground at the same time.
Who knew? Okay, Lonnie Quinn, thank you.
Many Americans say they can't afford homeowners insurance.
But without it, they couldn't afford to rebuild after a fire. And Eye on America Catch 22 is next.
Coming up, as egg prices skyrocket, egg substitutes for you and your family. Some alternatives you can try. Inside Edition next on your CBS station.
Before the fires in Southern California, you could see mile after mile of beautiful houses on wooded landscapes. What you could not see was that many of those homes were uninsured or underinsured. The fires that flattened them and destroyed the lush greenery exposed a national insurance crisis. Mark Strassman has tonight's Eye on America from Altadena.
That's the living room, dining room, kitchen.
Virtually everything Robert Covarrubias owned has settled into heaps of ash.
That's a refrigerator.
His family of 6 has lived in Altadena for 10 years. Their American dream had 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, 2,400 square feet.
From 3 miles, you could see the flames coming our way.
LA's Eaton fire swept through their neighborhood.
It's going to be tough for us to make an inventory of everything we lost, right?
Covarrubias, an IT executive, hopes Alex Traslavina can help. He's an independent insurance adjuster fire victims hire to negotiate with insurance companies. We listened as Traslavina delivered bad news.
You're underinsured when it comes to a policy, and there's clearly not going to be enough to make you whole again.
That's true, even though Covarrubias' homeowners policy covers more than $1 million in losses.
Based off your numbers, it's anywhere between, $500 to $1 million short.
He's staring at a second disaster, a financial one.
What are you going to do?
I don't know yet.
It's devastating. It hurts.
Traslavina drove us through scarred and scared Altadena neighborhoods. Scared, wondering how they'll ever afford to rebuild.
The cost to rebuild the materials outpacing the policies.
So the idea that people are going to be made whole in many cases is a pipe dream.
I don't know how families are going to be able to do it.
For some victims, the loss is both total and totally out of pocket. Nationally, 12% of Americans have no home insurance. With premiums soaring, they drop their coverage and roll the dice. And in a disaster like this, lost big.
I don't think most Americans understand that they're underinsured. I think most Americans see insurance as something they have to do.
Jeremy Porter studies property values after natural disasters. Banks and insurance agencies rely on his data. Take Colorado's Marshall Fire in 2021, a roughly $2 billion disaster. An estimated 3/4 of victims discovered they were underinsured.
If your home is completely destroyed, it's very difficult for most insurance policies to cover the complete rebuild of a property. So there's a second layer of kind of re-victimization.
That's where Robert Covarrubias now finds himself. His savings now compete with $1 million in uninsured losses.
Are you determined to rebuild?
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. The property's worth it. The place is worth it.
It's his assurance to his family. His insurance makes that more complicated. For Eye on America, Mark Strassman in Altadena, California.
The median cost of a home last year rose more than 4.5%. The cost of insuring one rose almost twice as much. In tomorrow's Eye on America from Voorhees, New Jersey, it's called Medical Aid in Dying. You'll meet a terminally ill woman who made the choice to end her life. And John and I will be back in a moment with a salute to some of the men and women who risked their lives for all of us. For the past 3 weeks, we've been watching as firefighters from all over the country join their colleagues in Southern California battling the wildfires.
As residents ran away from the flames, these brave souls raced toward them, risking their lives to save others. They fight what we fear.
That is what firefighters do every day, men and women, career and volunteer, in cities and towns all across America.
We know them not by their names, but by their deeds, their willingness every day to leave their families to protect ours.
To lay down their lives for neighbors they never met. There is no greater love.
That's the CBS Evening News. I'm John Dickerson. Thank you for joining us.
I'm Maurice DuBois. We hope to see you here tomorrow. Good night.